And action. Hey folks, Ed B here, W4EMB. Hello from the shadow. This video is in, I don't know, not necessarily response. Pardon all the light. It's not a good lighting day, is it? But anyway, we're going to cover the same kind of thing that Ditwit Portable Radio did the other day. He went over his radios. So we're going to be talking about some radios today. We're going to be talking about other equipment as well, and just cover some of these things. Now, let's just cover something right up front. I'm trying to unfold the legs of my tripod here. All right, well, so this is how it goes. I didn't know that I had this. Well, I mean, I kind of knew. Maybe I started out this video wrong. Hi, my name's Ed, and I'm a radio key and an antenna-aholic. All right, so today I'm going to cover some of the radios that I have, just like Mark did in his videos. But I also want to cover some other things. I want to cover some of the specialized equipment that I may take with me, and my go-to antennas, and then some comfort items, and then also some utility tools. Just what are just some general utility type things that I think that I should have with me, and we'll cover it from there. All right, so stay tuned. We're going to cover it right now. Take two. All right, folks. Okay, not so important as having me totally in frame. So we're going to cover some of the radios that we have here on this table. All right, we have the LICW KX1. All right, good thing about this radio is it's nice and small, lightweight, low battery consumption. Just an awesome little radio to have, made by a good friend of mine, Richard, K4BLE. He actually made this, so proud of it. He put a little brass nameplate on there, letting folks know that he built it. And he's just an electrical genius, by the way. But anyway, so this is made by Richard, K4BLE, and I've been able to come in contact with this radio, the LICW KX1. Next is the LICW KX2. I like that the small size of this radio. The other thing I love about this radio is also the tuner. As I heard someone else say, the tuner, the internal tuner of this radio will tune a wet dog. All right, so the LICW KX2 internal tuner and the audio doesn't sound too bad. The LICW KX3, now we're getting a little bit bigger, but still, for a car to picnic table activator, not so bad at all. Okay, so the LICW KX3 gives you a lot more of the options. This one actually has the 2-meter onboard option, so if you were into that, so this has a lot of the bells and whistles with it. Internal tuner, so awesome to have a radio with internal tuner. I find that the audio between the KX2 and the KX3, the audio actually comes out of the KX2 better. Okay, the KX1 I need an external battery for. All right, moving into some of the unicorn radios. This is my Pentec TR45L. This is the full-size version with the internal battery. All right, I've taken the battery out of it because I don't like storing batteries in my radios, especially one that is now a unicorn. The guy that made this radio no longer makes them, so I took the internal battery out of the radio, and I just keep it in the box. This is a great radio, no menus. Everything is right on the front of it. You can check your SWR, you can check your forward power out. You can add RIT if you like, you can select your bands, you can adjust your speed of your key, you can plug in paddles and a straight key both at the same time. You can plug in headphones and also listen to the external speaker. You can turn off the external speaker by the flip of a switch and just listen through your headphones. You have 3 filtering options, what I call wide, medium, and narrow. And you just simply flip the switch and that will take you to medium. Flip that switch, it takes you to a really narrow, back to medium, back to regular. Really love this radio. The analog meter is really what kicks off this radio. The reason is this little red light. If you are tuning up and that red light comes on, that means you're higher than a 2-to-1 SWR, so you know to stop keying immediately. But the really cool feature of this radio is that it has the built-in Z-Match tuner. So all you do is you tell it to use the tuner, whether you're going to be on coax or these two. You can flip that switch to this switch will flip you between these two options. This is the CW keyer volume. right? Or your side tone volume. That was an add-on, okay? Yeah, so you can flip the tuner in. Once the tuner's in, you move these until you hear the loudest noise. And then while you're sitting on this side of the radio, you can just simply reach over the top and grab these, press your key, and move these knobs on the back and make the needle lay flat. And when you're on reverse, and then you know you're good. Then you can flip to forward, hit your key to see what power you're putting out, and then adjust your power out knob right there. Excellent, and that tuner works great. That Z-Match tuner is awesome. So internal tuner, internal battery, no menus, everything's right there in front of you. And the sound quality on this radio is probably better than everything on the table. Probably even gives my DX10 in the house a run for its money. And then of course its little brother, which is the narrow version. Great sound as well. All the same features except for no internal tuner, no internal battery. And we'll cover what do you do for a tuner here as we get around the table. So great option. Can't buy these anymore though. If you find one, you should buy it. All right, I hope I'm still in frame here. Let's go ahead and move on to a couple others. This one here, this is a Index Laboratories QRP Plus radio. Thank you to Chris, N8PEM. You're just awesome. This is an antique radio from like the late 90s. And the sound of this thing is amazing as well. It's a great radio. There's no tuner, no internal battery. So I always use external battery, external tuner anyway, except for this one. But the sound of this radio is really awesome. It sounds really great. It has its own unique sound. Also, when I'm transmitting, people know when I'm on this radio as well. Great radio. And I believe it does 80 and up, or is it 160? 160 to 10? I can't remember. But anyway, it's old antique radio. Great radio here. And then followed up behind this radio is this radio, the SGC 2020 radio. Has the same internal type of filters that this one has. I believe it's called a SCAF filter is how it works. These are both also sideband and CW. We don't plug microphones in our radios here. But anyway, the SGC 2020 radio. This can go up to 20 watts. I think this is 10 watts. Another great sounding radio. Interesting filters because it's an old, early 2000s radio. So it's 25 plus years old. But hopefully you're not getting the garbage truck out front. But anyway, so great radio here. This was my first HF radio. And this is, get you back in frame. This is the Yaesu 897. All band, all mode, 2 meter, 440, HF, digital, CW, sideband, AM, FM, does it all. The other cool thing is, on the bottom of this radio, I actually have a power supply on this, but you can take the power supply off. Like it has its own integrated power supply that you plug into the wall. But you can take that off and put the original bottom on and put in 2 batteries. When those 2 batteries are in, then you could switch between battery A and battery B, and it has rubber feet right here. You can actually go portable with batteries with this thing in it. So that's pretty cool. All band, all mode. And then its tiniest little brother is the Yaesu 817, 2 meter, 440 HF, all band, all mode. 2 antenna hookups, a front antenna and a rear antenna. Okay. And I also did the WinCamp battery upgrade so that I can charge the WinCamp battery here. Has its own on-off switch right there. And then these little metal wings here. These were put on by the previous owner of that. All right, so there's the Yaesu 817. All right, so I believe that covers the radio portion of all of this stuff here. All right. All right, next we're going to move on to this stuff. All right, folks, this is a folding solar panel. We're gonna just lay it out there so you can see it, but I'm gonna go ahead and fold it back up while we talk about the other things on the table. I guess y'all can understand how that works. All right, here we go. A mast. We're gonna cover that mast here after a bit. Since we had the solar panel out, let's go ahead and talk about power. We do have this 50 amp hour battery inside of this box. This white connection is where I plug my solar panel in. This switch is where I turn the box on. My solar charge controller then comes on and let me know that it's on. And I had the on switch next to the same side as my solar panel. That reminds me, turn this on before I plug the solar panel in. So that way the power has somewhere to go to the battery and it won't burn up my controller, right? So it needs to be on before you plug in your panel. And then on this side, I have 2 USBs, a couple barrel, and a couple Anderson power poles. I have a new one of these so I can replace that with. So that's my power outside, okay? Along with the power, since we're there, move the camera a little bit. Blink. We have our Bioenno batteries. These are wonderful batteries. I have the 3 amp hour, 12 amp hour, and 15 amp hour. The only reason I have a 15 amp hour is because I went to order another one of these, just to have a backup. And they said, well, they were in the middle of producing these and asked me if I would like to have a 15 amp hour and free 4 amp charger, since they weren't able to give me the one I ordered. And I said, you bet. So we add this to the mix. And then this is actually a military thing. It's called a laser dazzler pouch, and it's perfect for this 12 amp hour battery. Fits right in there, has plenty of space for the wires, and it's padded, so it holds my 12 amp hour battery. Because these Bioenno batteries are very slick, right? They're really slick. So that covers power. Okay, now we've talked about power. Let's bring you back over here to this side of the table. All right, antennas. What do we have for antennas? Our two main go-to antennas is our Chelegance MC750 with the tripod option instead of the spike. And then I also carry 2 metal stakes, a bungee cord, along with a second set of radials. This is a set of 8 radials instead of 4. And I also have the 80 meter coil option. So I have the 80 meter coil, the 40 meter coil, the normal 4 radials, the tripod, and all the items in here. I also made this as well. This is and I made a short about this. This actually goes in between the antenna and the 40 meter. So when it's plugged in, it bypasses the 40 meter coil. So when I want to be on 20. But if I want to switch to 40, all I have to do is walk over and just unplug that. Yeah. And then that way I don't have to unscrew and take anything apart after, in the middle of activating. I can just walk over, pink, plug that in or unplug it. Usually I'm plugging it in because I'll go from 40 early in the morning. So this will be unplugged because it's going through the 40 meter coil. And then as 40 meters starts to die off and only 20 is open, well, then I will have to walk over and adjust that. So that's my Chelegance MC750 antenna. Okay. And then that is 90% of my operation right there. The other, well, maybe not 90, because I just got into using my homemade in-fed half-wave here recently. So that has been fun. So these 2 antennas are my go-to antennas. All right, this enclosure come off Etsy, and it's in-fed half-wave as well, just like this one. Inside of this thing is the toroid and the capacitor inside this, and it's basically like a fly fishing reel. You just pull it out, stick it up on your mast, and there you go. Or if you're a tree guy. The other thing I have, 2 pieces of speaker wire with banana connector or banana plugs, one red, one black, and of course that gets plugged into this device here, and use a tuner and just something experimenting with. All right, and then here's yet another in-fed half-wave, just like this one, but instead I used a project box, a zip tie and a key ring just as for tension relief, and a banana plug, plugging the antenna itself into the device in there. And then my coax, of course, goes on the end. So just another in-fed half-wave. A lighter wire, right? Because I made that for my other mast. This is my heavy-duty mast, but I made this lighter wire because my other mast get really thin up top. So now we've covered antennas, almost. This is a tape measure with a 9-to-1 transformer on it. Pull that out 41 feet, secure that, and give it a go. Something to play with, of course, and use a tuner, obviously. When you're using a 9-to-1 transformer and a random length wire, you always want to use a tuner with it. and then you can check it. And how do we check it? Well, we have our Rig Expert AA55. That's a great go-to analyzer. What's nice about this is it can do multi-bands at once. Okay, all right. And then this case that I have for it, actually I got from your big block store. It's the Klein Tools case. It's soft but hard, right? But it fits my Rig Expert perfectly. And then also in here, I keep a spare piece of RG174 and an adapter. And that makes a good place to keep an emergency piece of coax. So just in case you have coax failure, you have a piece in there. And so there's our Rig Expert. The other Rig Expert that we have is our 230 stick, right? And this, we keep it inside this electric toothbrush case, okay? K8 MRD is the first guy that I saw do this. And so what do you do when you see guys do stuff on YouTube? You go do it too. There is a lot of things on this table because of other people. I jokingly sent Thomas Witherspoon an email that said my lawyer is going to send him a cease and desist letter because he's cost me a lot of money. Matter of fact, this speaker wire antenna was because of Thomas Witherspoon. The TR-45 radios was because of Thomas Witherspoon. The Chelegance antenna, a chameleon antenna. All right, so we covered antennas, we've covered power, we've covered the radios. Let's go ahead and move our antenna, and we covered our analyzers. So we're done with this stuff. So let's go ahead and move over and talk about a few other things. All right, and hopefully we're back in frame again. All right, 2 AA batteries, because that's all that Rig Expert requires. Is awesome. All right, memory keyer. This thing is great. You can't hear that, but it's called CQ. This has 8 programmable memories in it. And I can plug my key into it, plug it into the radio. You can even plug it into an external speaker if you wish. But this comes from Ham Gadgets. And the faces come in different colors, green, blue, red, and so forth. You can program this for your speed. So I programmed it for 18 words a minute. But you can take this knob, and if someone comes back to you slower, you can grab that knob and slow the key or speed down. So I made a little pencil mark on the front of mine that puts it around 15 or so. I think that's an okay speed to slow it down to. All right, so that's my keyer. Speaking of keys, keyers, this is my Palm Pico key, single lever paddle. Love this little key. Hold it in my hand, and I can key. Pops right out. You plug it in right there. Has a magnet base, so I love that, sitting on top of this jeweler's block if I'm at a picnic table. But what keeps this from sliding around? This thing that you use to open jars with. It really sticks this good. Really good. All right. What other keys do we have? We have, of course, our thank you to Marcus, silent key Marcus, the bamatech TP3. All right. So we have that key. We have 2 of those. And then this key, this is my CIR 37S from Sir Kobo, S-U-R-K-O-B-O, made by an elderly Japanese guy in Japan. Just a fantastic key. This thing is just amazing. All right, 3D printed box. Thank you, Frank, for my bamatech key. And then, of course, things you want to remember to bring as well. You want to remember to bring your audio cables. So that you can plug your key to your radio, right? Bring an extra of this. Sometimes these goes bad from folding and unfolding all the time. So having a couple extra of those in the bag is great. Talking of extra stuff we'll cover here in a moment. All right, so there's our keys and keyers. And then of course, a straight key for the field. Got to have a good straight key. This is my Czechoslovakian Army straight key. The best straight key I've ever owned, including better feeling to me than my Bagali Spark. It feels really good. All right, I skipped the tuner here. Let's talk about the tuner. This is a Z-Match tuner, the same type of tuner that's on the back of the TR-45 radio. This tuner is great. This is a 3D printed box. I also have the lid. It's down in the bag. Thank you to K8ARE who sells these boxes. This tuner is awesome. It has a red light on it. You flip this switch to operate. once you go to operate, you move these knobs until you hear the loudest noise, right? When you hear the loudest noise, then you go ahead and flip this to tune. Press your key or your mic, and that light will come on. When that light comes on, while holding the key, you move these until that light goes out. Once the light is out, you flip that to operate, and you're good to operate. This thing will tune a wet rope. Fantastic tuner. So, things to remember to bring. Make sure that you bring your spare cables, maybe even 2 of these, so that you can get from your tuner to your rig, right? And then this to your antenna, obviously. So you want to make sure you have your jumper wires when you have your little external tuners, right? And then a dummy load. A dummy load is always a good thing to have. Always plug this into your radio whenever you're about to do something different on your radio. Okay, accessories and things. Let's talk about accessories and things. This is just a Chinese thing. It's a coaster. It is an ashtray, and it's a cell phone holder. And that's exactly what that thing is advertised to be. It's a coaster, ashtray, and cell phone holder, because you know those are the 3 things that you want to find in one item. But this is great for when I'm out doing my parks on the air, is I can set my phone in there while I use my Bluetooth keyboard for when I use the Polo app. And thank you to Sebastian. If you haven't supported Sebastian and that Polo app, amazing, absolutely amazing, the go-to standard for most POTA activators. All right, so Bluetooth keyboard, phone holder. All right, so there's a couple accessories that we bring. Headphones, bring those. All right, another thing we bring, something for the table. How many times you get out to a park and you find that the picnic table is concrete, and so it's like the roughest sandpaper ever, and you don't want to be dragging your equipment, your keys, your radios across these concrete tables. So a good rubber pad on a table is awesome. This one is the POTA one. Thank you to my friend Charles that got this for me. K0CEP. I appreciate you, Charles. Great rubber mat. Also, this thing has a lot of information on the front of it. Your Q codes over here on the side, signal report, readability 1 through 5, and your signal strength 1 through 9. That's awesome to have, along with the band plan. Having a good band plan is awesome as well. Before I had this mat, another great friend of mine got me this little portable band plan that went in this little sheath. And so this band plan, along with my phone holder and my keyboard, was a perfect little combination to have. And then my rubber mat here. A little tiny hammer. I put this in the side pouch of my bag. This is for my tent stakes. Whenever I'm putting up my antenna with the tripod, if it's windy, that antenna will blow over. So I'll put in 2 tent stakes and strap a bungee cord over top of the tripod base to hold it down. And just a little tiny hammer comes in handy for that. Zip ties and pliers, always. Adapters of various types and kind. A headlamp, that came in handy. I got this wild thing the other day where I said, I'm going to get up early and go do POTA. Well, I forgot it's getting wintertime, and guess what? I was sitting in the dark setting up my stuff. So a headlamp comes in handy. And this is the kind of headlamp that's rechargeable by USB-C, and it can also clip to my cap. It comes with a band as well if you don't wear a hat like I do. All right. Next, I'll back up out of view here again. Next, bungee cords. I use these bungee cords a lot, okay? Also, before I had my fancy mat from Charles, I used a yoga mat. I used to take the whole thing with me, but then a friend of mine, he didn't have one. So I actually cut mine in half, and I cut a piece off and I gave him, because he was doing FTH. So he had a laptop, his radio, and all kind of stuff. And so my good Elmer Mark, he has the rest of this purple mat, and so he doesn't make YouTube videos, but I know he's out there using it. And unfortunately, he just left Clarksville and moved to Arkansas to be closer to his grandkids and kids. So Mark, I hope you think of us every time you go to use your purple mat. All right, what do we have over here? Just a bunch of junk. ABR Industries coax with the fancy yellow covering, the beads on one end. Thanks to K8MRD for getting us onto that coax over at Ham Radio Tube. And also, same fella, This is methane polonium coax, and I had mine specially made with a BNC on one end and the SO239 on the other, because that was what my Chelegance had on one end, and most of my radios have a BNC. Those that don't is why you have your fancy connector. Okay, I'm talking fast, folks. Let me get my camera here. Oh boy, getting you all seasick. I'm talking fast because the extra junk that I just showed here on the corner of the table, this is my external battery that I normally plug into, and if you look down, you'll see this. This is my external mic thing, and in this I plug my power into this, because this camera will run out of power very quickly. Stop recording. Oh, I just sneezed in there somewhere. Hopefully we can edit that out. All right, so that covers a lot of these items. Now the other thing I'd like to go ahead and cover is, what about comfort items and things? And just, so 2 extra pencils. My fancy logging sheet clipboard. This is a waterproof thing made by Right in the Rain, so I can keep it packed full of my logging sheets, right? So that's for my paper log. Okay, and then some other things I have for comfort is I have my very fancy, very good friend of mine got me onto this. This is a bleacher chair, so it hooks onto bleachers, but great for picnic tables. And even if the picnic table's too thick, the bleacher hooks actually fold. But having a seat that's cushioned, and that's a thick cushion with a back, is amazing. Here I have a little camping table, along with a camping chair that's small. It's nice small, but it's heavy duty. Heavy duty, expensive. It's over $100, but it's a very good chair. And that's an umbrella. And now we're talking about that umbrella. What do we do with that umbrella? Well, it's a sport umbrella, so it actually sits up on the ground to where 2 people can sit under it in chairs if you put it at an angle. Well, I go ahead and I stand it up straight, and I stand it up in this thing. This is just a piece of PVC pipe with a big heavy zip tie and a hose clamp, and you clamp at your picnic table, and in there goes your umbrella. Now, something else that I've done when I wasn't using my umbrella was this speaker wire antenna, because since I used 2-inch pipe, guess what? My mast can fit in there. Now obviously something you need to do first is put your mast in it and then clamp it to the table, and then you go ahead and you start extending your mast and bring your mast up, and this holds really well. You might need to take a 3rd tent stake and put it in the ground with one of your bungee cords to hold the base of that, just so it doesn't want to kick one way or the other, but you can clamp this to a picnic table pretty well. Okay, and that's the HD mast, KMRD radio, thanks. And then what else can we do with our mast? How else can we put our mast up? Let's show you. Let's come over here to this. This is a mast inside of a hitch, 2-inch hitch, right? So instead of having the part that goes in here, the adjustable ball for up and down, just take that part off, put my mast in it. And then my mast sits in that, and there it goes up there. And then I just put a bungee cord around my luggage rack to there, and from there. And then if I were doing it this way, now it's leaning over the vehicle, but if I had an antenna up there, it would be pulling it out the other way. So I went through that quickly again. Like I said, I want to keep up with my battery here. I hope that, I want to make sure that I say something about DitWit portable radio, because when he did his layout, I thought it was a very good idea to go through and just show people the different things that's out there for you to use. Now, of course, you also want to keep in mind you need storage options too. So I have a lot of green boxes there, Pelican boxes and soft boxes and all that kind of stuff. However, that range bag is my go-to POTA bag, right? And what I love about the range bag is it's all in one gym bag. It has 2 side pockets. On those 2 side pockets, when you undo a side pocket and lay it over, inside there's magazine pouches. So I can take my audio cables and put in the magazine pouches. I can take my pliers and put it in there, my zip ties, put it in there. So everything's sorted and in its own little pocket. I can also take my bamatech key when it's in its 3D printed case and in that magazine pouch as well, right next to the audio cable. So it's all has its own place. And everything in that bag has its own place. Inside the bag are two more internal pockets on the left and the right side. That's where my ashtray, coaster, phone holder, and keyboard go, along with my fancy band plan card, also in those side pockets. And then on the other big side pocket that's not full of magazine pouches, it's like a cleaning kit side. So inside there goes my hammer and extra tent stake. In the end pockets, bungee cords, things like this. And then as far as my rubber mat goes, I roll up my rubber mat, roll up my coax, and after I put everything in my bag, I'll put the mat and the coax on top and then shut the handles, slide my mast, and there's everything. And in the bag, my 15 amp hour battery, my Elecraft KX2, my ZM2 tuner, and my extra key, all inside that bag. So there's power, there's radio, there's my antenna, because my in-fed half wave sits right in there as well. So there's everything you need right there in a gym bag for your activation. So although all this stuff is here on the table, that's all I really need to have is right there. Now, when I decide to take one of these extra radios with me, it has its own case that I carried in, so I'll grab that case and my gym bag, and that will be what I take to the park. As far as the 50 amp hour battery, my 12 amp hour battery, things like that, I will reserve the 50 amp hour battery when I'm going to go out on a bigger, maybe I'm going to go out on a field day. So I need to have my big battery, my big solar panel, along with my 897 radio, so that I can go out on a field day and participate that way, along with, you know, my umbrella and things like this. So I hope that covers a lot of these things. If there's any one of these particular radios that you'd like to see more of, let me know. And then one more thing I'd like to talk about too. When you do have multiple radios, and anybody feel free to chime in here, have you ever had your go-to radio that you use a lot, and then you decide, you know what, hey, I want to use my old radio here. Then you get out to the field and you're like, uh-oh, K4 LMZ, help. Go to the manual, please, for this radio. How do I do this? I hope I had cell service and send a text to a friend. So we were having to phone a friend to get some radio support on, you know, how do I switch it from sideband to CW? Or how do I adjust the bandwidth of my filter? So little things like that. So one of these days this winter, what I plan on doing is I have a stack of 3x5 cards, and I'm going to pull out the manuals for these radios and write down what are those common settings, those common things that I use. You know, I know a lot of people have nifty guides or nifty manuals, but if you don't have one, maybe a 3x5 card for that particular radio that you could keep on the radio would be a good idea. So, and I've seen people tape it to the top of the radio, but I think that just keeping it with the radio in however you carry your radio would be just fine. So that's this winter's project, is 3x5 cards for each of the radios on how to do different things. Because if you don't mess with it, you'll forget. Except for these TR45 radios, they're pretty simple because there is no menus. It's all right there. Yeah, love these things, really do. Really love these radios. I get a lot of emails telling me, Ed, if you know anybody that has an extra one, let me know. But you know what? I forgot to remember who they are. So if that was you, you might email me again and say, Ed, I was the guy that said if you ever have an extra, let me know. Or find one. All right, folks. Well, I've had you here for a long time going through all this stuff. I hope that some of this helped you. It has made me realize I don't have a problem. Do I? All right, folks. Well, I appreciate you watching. I'm Ed, W4EMB, and hopefully I'll get this edited sometime. Since I've had a computer migration, I've had a problem with my video editing software, and I've not been able to edit a video or get one up. I have like 4 or 5 POTA videos that I can't put together because Movavi, don't use them, has changed their thing to where, oh, you can use our editor, but only for a 1-minute video. Anyway, so I've had to switch, and now I'm looking for a different free editor that's just easy to take the clips from this Action 4 camera and put it in the editing software that will put all the clips together. And then I can edit that video. Speaking of this Action 4 camera and these DJI wireless mics, thank you to my channel supporters. And if you hear this long, hopefully you're those supporters. And it's through the Buy Me a Coffee link that you'll find in the description of the video. And I sure appreciate all those folks that have supported the channel through my Buy Me a Coffee fund. Really helps out. It's what gave me this camera, it's what gave me this microphone. And then anytime I get any surplus in there, whenever it builds up enough so I can go buy something and do a giveaway, that's what we do with that extra stuff. All right, talked to you long enough. I appreciate you, and we'll see you on the next one. I'm Ed, W4EMB 72. If you're QRP like you should be.